Party time is over. The court storm cleared up and it didn't lead to any sunshine. Syracuse men's basketball went down to Atlanta and left with a dark cloud over its head. We'll break that down. What went wrong against Georgia Tech?
While the men's team scurries to salvage its season, the women's squad sits second in the ACC. After a controversial finish in the Louisville win, Syracuse finally cracked the top 20, but would a road trip prove the SU doubters right? A doubleheader? That's twice as nice, right?
Not so fast, Ian. The Orange ran into a buzzsaw with the Maryland Terrapins coming to town on Saturday. How'd the Orange fare against the Terps? Let's find out.
From top 5 teams like the Terps and Syracuse lacrosse to being outside the top 5 in the CHA, SU ice hockey eliminated from the conference tournament before hosting senior weekend. How did Syracuse play out the string against Mercyhurst? Find out that and so much more by joining us on the bench.
Hey everybody, welcome into our CitrusTV studios with my friend Ian Nicholas. I'm Jack Gordon. Ian, it's been such a fun year of basketball. Plenty of teams playing right now. But we got one dominant one that's just killing it right now.
Right, this women's basketball team ranked as high as 17th in the AP poll this week. Its highest since 2020, and I understand Syracuse men's basketball had the win that caught the whole nation on alert against UNC, but this women's basketball team only a game behind Virginia Tech for number 1 in the ACC.
You got a favorite moment of the season so far? They've been so fun to watch.
I know not a lot of people are going to say this one, but that Florida State comeback, I was in the Dome for that. And they were top 15 in the country at that point. That Seminoles team looked legit, and then I knew there DeAsia Fair was legit, and this team could take down any obstacle.
That was not too long ago, but let's get to the here and now with our headlines of the week. This Saturday, Syracuse men's basketball honors a legend when the Cuse takes on Notre Dame. It'll be on Jim Boeheim Day. Apparently naming the court after you isn't enough, but all kidding aside, the former SU coach won over 1,100 games, went to 5 Final Fours, and won a national championship in 2003. The 47-year head coach gets his day on the 24th.
Well, Jim Boeheim, once a National Coach of the Year, but he never coached a National Player of the Year. Meanwhile, Syracuse men's lacrosse, 3 Tewaaraton winners, tied for the most all time. That's the same number of players SU has on this year's award watch list, which includes Will Mark, Jake Stevens, and who else but Joey Spallina. The SU women's team has never had a Tewaaraton winner, and like the men's squad though, the Orange have a trio of watch listers in Emma Ward, Emma Tyrell, and Delaney Schweitzer.
Well, sticking with the honors, another Syracuse women's basketball player has reached a milestone, not DeAsia Fair this time. 5th-year Elena Rice scored her 1,000th point against Miami on Thursday. 608 of those scores came with the Orange, but the guard started her career down at Florida A&M and Auburn. Well, elsewhere below the Mason-Dixon line, Syracuse men's basketball was in action on Saturday. The Orange squared off with Georgia Tech down in Atlanta. Before that, SU was on cloud 9 with the biggest win of the Adrian Autry era last week, beating number 7 UNC. But the good times didn't last. The Cuse in the ATL. The Yellow Jackets, they've been struggling as of late. Only 3-11 in conference play, and Syracuse, like I said, coming off its first top 10 win in 5 years. They got off to a little bit of a hot start in this one. A nice pass from Mintz to Malik Brown. 11-5 SU on top about 6 minutes in, but Kawasi Reeves, he says, anything you can do, I can do better. 16-14 SU after that one, and the Orange did okay in the paint today, not behind the arc. Georgia Tech on the other end, they were all right. 7 threes, Syracuse only 4. That was Miles Kelly with the finish, that three-pointer, and on the Syracuse side, Quadir Copeland with a kiss at the rim, 18-17 SU. Later on, Chris Bell from 3 and a putback slam. I bet you didn't expect to see Kyle Cuff on the end of that, but hey, here we are, Syracuse up 2017. Not for long, the Yellow Jackets went on a run. Tafara Gapari throws it down with 2, Tech by 4. Towards the end of the half, J.J. Starling, he says, give me that, goes the other way, finishes with the and 1, but Yellow Jackets still on top. Now to the locker room. Bye-bye. That's by Ndongo. Going right past Malik Brown for the finish. Tech by 2. They'd extend that lead. Kyle Sturdivant, he nailed this three. 41-36 Georgia Tech, 4 minutes into the second. Uh-oh. Mom and Dad are fighting again. This isn't good. Not all is well with the Cuse. Malik Brown, he turns this one over. Oh, come on, Malik. You gave that one right back. Tafara Gapari, once again, a nice finish. 52-46 GT. Unless you had the lead, but Kyle Sturdivant, he snatched that right back. Splash. 57-55, 4:52 to go. Down the stretch, we're all tied up. By Ndongo, good with the and one layup. 59-57 GT, 3 minutes left. Let's fast forward, 30 seconds to go. A nice finish by Miles Kelly, and one on the jumper. Nailed the free throw too, and last-ditch effort for the Cuse. J.J. Starling trying to get the finish. He had the hot hand, couldn't do so. 65-60. Georgia Tech takes the win. And Danny Tao, he was down in Atlanta. He's got more on the loss.
Different night, same issues for Syracuse men's basketball. In the Orange's 65-60 defeat to Georgia Tech this evening, 3-point shooting and rebounding were once again areas where SU came up short. And head coach Adrian Autry had a few theories why.
We have to battle more. We have to get 5 guys in there rebounding. Again, we talk about it every game. We got to get our guards in there rebounding. It just can't be one guy. It has to be everybody getting in and rebounding. And today, again, when you see this bigger difference in the numbers and the rebounding, a lot of times it's because we didn't shoot the ball well. We didn't shoot the ball well, so they were able to get some rebounds on that end.
Just remember that all 5 crash. Just remember where you have to be, especially when you're in the zone. So it's kind of different when you got 5 people flying in. But just always be conscious of everybody else around you, not just one guy can rebound. League was down there fighting, Q was down there fighting, so some of us guards got to get in there and help those guys out.
With just 5 games left in the regular season, Syracuse is running out of time to fix what ails it. And the Orange's next chance comes Tuesday in Raleigh against NC State. Danny Tao, CitrusTV.
Well, thanks, Danny. You hit the nail on the head right there. At NC State Tuesday. And Ian, Syracuse had all the momentum after the North Carolina win. They lost it against Georgia Tech. They've got 4 more games to salvage some kind of momentum, I guess.
Yeah, but look at last season, Jack. You mentioned NC State. The Orange beat the Wolfpack last year. That was their only ranked win. What did they do after that? They lost their next 4 games, and it's a very similar group to last year's team. So I understand this competition isn't super stiff. Notre Dame's going to be a big day on Jim Boeheim Day and a J.J. Starling revenge game, but this young group hasn't proven, at least this season, that they can really bounce back from a massive win because they've only had 1 of them.
4 more regular season games left, and on the women's side, Syracuse has a couple more games to go. We'll preview or recap a couple of the games that went on. Virginia, Miami, we got it all for the best team on campus right now.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too...
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible. She must be a keeper.
Welcome back to our CitrusTV studios with Ian Nicholas. I'm Jack Gordon. A lot colder up here in Syracuse than it is down in Florida.
Sub
Ian.
20.
Oh, God, I don't want to talk about it. You ever been to Florida before?
I have. I mean, look, you have more maybe the beach bod than I do, but back in the day, a little Disney action, that was the only time I've been down
There you go, not bad. You'd still, are you going to be a Disney adult? That's the real question.
I do have a friend that's a Disney adult.
That's terrible.
And she is fantastic, but at the same time, I am kind of wondering, when's it going to end? And
it doesn't for the Disney adults. It never
no,
does.
that's the point.
Well, down in the Sunshine State, number 19 Syracuse women's basketball, they keep the good times rolling. The Orange were coming off a 3-game win streak and a victory over number 15 Louisville. But could they get past a sneaky Miami team lurking in the middle of the ACC? Let's find out. In Coral Gables, Florida, a fabulous place to celebrate a birthday. The Cuse and the Canes went toe-to-toe. Georgia Woolley, she got Syracuse out on the right foot. This was her day today. You see her driving on the baseline, takes the contact with the and one. 24 points for her on the night. We got a lot more coming up with that. Jada Patrick for Miami, she nails this three. 7-5 SU on top in the first half, and defense into offense right here. Lazaria Spearman, she makes it 17-12 into the first. Alyssa Latham, she's a bucket getter. Look at the footwork. Good on the layup. 2:08 left in the second quarter, and the Orange, they just kept cooking on offense. Look at how wide open Sophie Burrows is. That's the connection from down under right there. And in the second half, Miami, they go on a little bit of a run. Cheyenne Day Wilson drills a three, assist from Latasha Lattimore. And then Syracuse still battling back. They had a big lead. Fair to Woolley to Rice for a tough bucket. 4 left in the third, and Miami began its push finally. Jada Patrick for three, 55-40 the Hurricanes trail. Still a big deficit, but not done there. A big swat. Latasha Lattimore got her paws all over that one. Elena Rice nowhere to go. And then on the other end, Jalea Williams, a nice finish. 9-point game. Eventually, they brought it to a 2-point game. But hey, it was Georgia Woolley's night. We all know that. She helps the Cuse pull away and take a 71-60 win over Miami. Now, it's been an up and down season for Woolley, but this was arguably her best game of the year. Season high 24 points and 10 of 19 from the field. The guard didn't even need the 3-ball against the Hurricanes, shooting only 1 of 6 from deep.
But you know, Jack, that 1 3 that she did make was pretty impressive. And I'm going to keep things Woolley themed. Let's steal a page from some classics like Fight Club, Pulp Fiction. I'll begin with the ending of SU Sunday Matinee at UVA. When asked post-game about her backcourt mate, Fair said she can make this Orange team really, really special. So, was this another Best Supporting Actress level performance for Woolley on the road against the Cavs? It's the Cavs team that is towards the cellar of the ACC, but over 6,000 fans in attendance as they honored 7-time ACC Coach of the Year Debbie Ryan. Now, good characters in movies, they usually battle through adversity, right? Woolley this season has been concussed, fought through a hand injury, and looked good there. Syracuse looks good too. 8-0 lead to start this game for SU. To cut the deficit to 8, they needed a 3 from Sam Brunel. UVA did. Syracuse rolled in this first quarter, a 14-point lead after 1. Defense and the offense, Kyra Wood to Elena Rice to Georgia Woolley. And the award goes to Georgia Woolley would have 26 points on the game. Deasia Fair would do her thing as well. 5 triples on the afternoon. This is a typical box office day for Deasia Fair. I get it, the movie puns, you hate them at this point, but you're going to hate that Virginia's going to keep it in this game. Katie Pauley hits a 3. They're down 17 at the break. Deasia Fair through the contact and 1 triple try there. The Orange end the third quarter on a 6-0 run. But UVA scores nearly 30 in this fourth quarter. Cameron Taylor's keeping her team in it. Under 2 minutes to go, Deasia Fair, she had a little bit more than 20 points on the game like Taylor did. But Taylor said, you know, I'm pretty wide open down here. I'm going to cut it to 4 with 1.5 minutes left. Deasia Fair said, I want more. And she ices the game with 1 minute to go. 33 points for Fair, third 30-point performance on the year. And now, Jack, she has the 6th most points in women's college basketball, very close to one of the greatest to ever play the game.
Ian, what a superstar, right? Brittany Griner, I mean, one of the greatest ever. Like you said, she had her jersey retired the other night by Baylor. Deasia Fair right there. I think at the end of the day, when she wraps it up, she could get all the way up to 3rd. They've got a few more regular season games left. You'd have to picture maybe 2 or 3 ACC tournament games, maybe 2 or 3 NCAA tournament games too. I think she gets there. I mean, she's easy over 20 a night.
We'll see how many more games Deasia Fair plays in the Dome too, because she only needs 26 more points in the next 2 home games for Syracuse. The next 2 games are at home, Duke and Pitt, and then who knows if they finish as a 4 seed or higher for the NCAA tournament. we could get more DeAsia Fair in March. But before Fair crept close to number 5 in the record book, Syracuse's top 5 lacrosse teams went to battle. It was a Maryland Terrapin takeover inside the Dome Saturday. Both games started slow and steady, but would the SU men and women win the race? Find out when we come back on the bench.
Here we go. We're gonna go out there to race. Gonna get wet. All right, here we go. Okay, quick. Oh yeah, yes. So much fun. Mwah. We're getting so wet.
Welcome back to On the Bench. Ian Nicholas alongside Jack Gordon, who, if you didn't know, is our resident lacrosse expert, although you did not play in high school.
No, baseball.
No, but you
Just
still,
lifelong.
But any stick with any game with a stick and a ball, you're an expert in.
Oh, I was still playing catch all the time. Still, pounding around. I was there.
This is more than just a casual game, though, for Syracuse men's lacrosse that we're talking about. I mean, top 5 showdown, first top 5 showdown of the year in college lacrosse. This is kind of put up or shut up for Gary Gait in this year where everybody was wondering, is this team really back?
Yeah, such a loaded schedule, too, Ian. To get a big win over a top 5 team would be really important. I mean, Maryland's just one of the best programs in history. If you can kick off the season with a win like that, I know they were already 3-0 coming into this game, but if you could establish yourself with the first big win like this, would be huge to kind of kickstart something big this season.
Right, 3-0, but that was against Vermont, Colgate, and Manhattan. And Mariano Rivera was a fun guest at that Manhattan game, but he wasn't much of a player on the lacrosse field. Lots of great players in this game. So let's see how it shook up. I'm going to spoil it for you. Instant classic this one was. First, the crowd. Look at that. Over 7,000 in the Dome. The Central New Yorkers showed up because Joey Spallina does things like this, and Luke Roa did some great things in this game. The sophomore, one of his 4 goals on the night to put Syracuse up 3 minutes in. But then a few minutes later, Braden Urksa, he had 5 points, just charged the cage and said, I'll do it myself. Mason Cone, a Fogo. He's not supposed to do that. But when he's hyping up the crowd, who cares? Jack, Syracuse's defense did care about this Maryland run.
Yeah, I mean, just look at that. He was wide open on the crease. There were way too many plays where Will Mark was kind of one-on-one with guys. But the defense didn't collapse fast enough. They got to be a lot more steady.
Michael Leo was steady throughout this one, even through some contact. He brought the Orange within 1 and a half, dominated by defense. Let's get you to some offense. Number 22, Joey Spallina beats number 1, Ajax Zapatello. What a name, by the way. Through his screen, Spallina gets some help, but then Maryland right back on the offensive. Jack Corus, he had 4 points in this game. Braden Urksa, he gets his hands free a couple times, Jack, and the back and forth battle starts in the 4th.
He was a star. Braden Urksa kind of kick-started that scoring run. Maryland was on a big scoring drought. They needed him so desperately.
Syracuse needs more of this Luke Roa. He might be a second-line midfielder, but above GLE, below GLE, he was scoring from crazy angles. But when you give Corus that room from straight in front, even with a goalie like Will Mark, hard to stop. Late in the 4th, Terps take the lead thanks to Eric Spanos. And then after an Owen Hiltz to Christian Moulet connection, we're going to overtime. 3rd straight year of an overtime game for Syracuse, and they win it! No, they don't. Michael Leo stepped in the goal mouth. The officials say he was not pushed in, so one more chance for Maryland. 7 seconds after the restart, and a D. Mitty scores the game-winning goal. George Stamos, you've never scored a bigger goal in your life. 13-12 the final score. Adam Gotkin, what happened?
Syracuse and Maryland played a game for the ages. The Terps won 13-12 in overtime, but tomorrow, no one's going to be talking about the final score. All of the national conversation will revolve around the controversial call towards the end. With just over a minute to go in overtime, Michael Leo dashed down GLE, dove towards the crease, and put the ball into the back of the net. Now, the referees say he landed in the goal mouth. Gary Gates says he was pushed. It's a controversial play that'll be looked at not just tomorrow, not just this week, but into June when the NCAA Rules Committee meets.
To be honest, we kind of met as a coaches group over December, and one of the things that came up is, and we talk about a lot of things. We talk a lot about rules and things of that nature, and one thing did come up was, do we need the goal mouth?
I think there's work to be done. There's been several times already this year in a young year where the refs have come to me and said the player was pushed in the back, but we're not allowed to make that call off review.
And I saw the shot clock was just winding down, so I took a shot and obviously called them to go our way. So that's just sports.
So while this matchup may not have gone the Orange's way, there's one thing that is clear, and that's that Gary Gate is very happy his team got to experience a game like this. Well, the Orange will have a quick turnaround. On Wednesday, Syracuse hosts Utah at noon. Reporting from the JMA Wireless Dome, Adam Gotkin, Citrus TV.
Thanks, Adam. That's a Utah team, by the way, Syracuse has never played. Should be a fun matchup, but not a super fun time for the program right now because this is a feeling that's all too familiar. Gates' team has experienced a loss like this in each of his first 3 seasons at the helm. 2 years ago, Syracuse battled the national runners-up in Cornell, brought them to overtime, lost. Last season, deja vu. Duke, they finished a game shy of the Natty against Notre Dame, but they topped SU in an extra period along the way. Syracuse has to start winning some of these big games.
Well, Ian, the men's squad couldn't get it done, but that wasn't the only game of the day. We had a doubleheader. Syracuse women's lacrosse also played Maryland. That one was at noon. Kayla Trainer's squad came into this one 1-1. A loss to number 1 Northwestern, a win over number 18 Army. This was another opportunity for a ranked win. The number 5 Orange hosted the number 9 Terps. Now we got 2 of the sports titans. Last year, Syracuse blew out Maryland 20-11. Megan Tyrell had 11 points, but she's graduated this time around, so who's gonna step up? Might be her sister Emma, we'll find out. But first, it was Peyton Rowley, her 5th goal of the season. That tied it at 1-1 through some contact. And how about Maisie Clevenger, the freshman, getting on the board? 2-1 Terps in the second quarter. Syracuse on the woman up. You know who it is, Emma Tyrell, filling in for her sister. She had a couple of goals today, 3-2 Maryland. They went on a 12-minute scoring drought, and eventually Nat Smith, a 3-3 tie after that one. 8 seconds left in the half. Emma Ward, she burns a hole in the back of the net. 4-3 Syracuse into the break. To start the second half, Olivia Adamson calls her own number 1, slots it low, 5-3 Orange. Now, the Terrapins were scoreless for over 20 minutes until Corey Edmondson puts the team in her Jansport. A third quarter hat trick, 5-5 tie after this goal right here. The feed onto the crease, dodges by her defender, frees up some space, and there it is. Now, Orange and Terps, they went back and forth. This one was tight throughout, and eventually Eloise Clevenger, a nice turnaround score. She tied it 6-6, and it's tight. Look at the stats throughout. Emma Tyrell through a tight window of space, a nice dodge. She slotted that one low. Her second goal right there, 7-7. Tied up once again. How about the feed from Ward to Adamson, streaking down the alley. She slots that one, and a little bit later on, another assist from Ward. This one from Maryland this time. 8-8 tie after Hannah Lubecker score. Remember the name, Hannah Lubecker. First to overtime right here. Emma Ward couldn't get the shot to go. Maryland, a nice save by Emily Sterling. There she is. Hannah Lubecker, the star of the show. Final 9-8, double overtime. And Raheel Jaswell's got the details on the win.
Sometimes you scratch, you claw, and you fight. But it's not enough. And tonight, that was the case for number 5 Syracuse women's lacrosse, as SU fell inside the JMA Wireless Dome to number 9 Maryland, 9-8 in overtime. While the margins were razor thin, After the game, head coach Kayla Trainer said it all came down to defense.
I thought both defenses played really well, our defense and Maryland's. I thought both goalies were excellent in this game. But ultimately we really needed to make plays at the end. We had plenty of opportunities to do that.
I thought today, when you look at the game and the course of how it went, I thought our defense was awesome. You're playing against one of the best offensive groups in the country. I mean, they're very good. And our defense was very consistent today, led by Emily back there. And just, they did a really nice job of sticking with our game plan. Offensively, we found a way at the end. I thought we were a little hesitant for a while. And just kind of sat back, but found a way to kind of gut it out. So a big win for us today, and just proud of our program and our team's effort.
I mean, I was just excited to celebrate with my teammates. It was a huge team effort. We would not have even had that opportunity had the defense not come up with 2 huge stops. So it was a great feeling, but it's definitely a feeling for everybody.
Syracuse now falls to 1-2 on the season. At this point last year, the Orange were a perfect 3-0. SU will look to get back in the win column on Saturday when they travel to take on Notre Dame. Opening draw is set for noon. Reporting from inside the JMA Wireless Dome, Rahil Jaswal, Citrus TV.
An overtime thriller, Ian, and at the end of the day, this one just came down to some late mistakes by Syracuse.
Yes, one shot in the final 8 minutes of the game, plus both overtimes. The offense, which is what you think of when you think of Syracuse lacrosse, was out of sync. And I know people are done talking about rule changes after the men's game, but I'm going to bring up one more rule change in the women's game. The green cards in between the 30-yard line is ridiculous. But Coco Vandiver, she did not know that rule late in the first overtime. She picks up a meaningless green card, and then what happens in the start of the second overtime? They start with the ball, Maryland does, and they start a woman up. The game was over in the second overtime. That cannot happen if you're Kayla Trainer's crew. Unfortunately for another team on campus, Kayla Trainer's team, they have time to fix their issues. The Syracuse ice hockey, the time is pretty much ran out. Their season over after the weekend. Syracuse tennis, on the other hand, their season's just getting started in ACC play. We'll talk about both of them when we come back on the bench.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
You quit smoking and thought, that's that. But here's the thing about lung cancer. By the time you see the symptoms, it could be too late. But now, there's a new scan that can detect lung cancer early, when it's more curable. If you smoked, get scanned. Talk to your doctor or learn more at savedbythescan.org.
Welcome back to On the Bench. Ian Nicholas alongside Jack Gordon. Now, Jack, you've decided to put up with me on the Bench for almost a full year now. That was after living with me over the summer, where I think I gained a reputation of having elite pop culture references.
That was your good reputation. Your bad reputation was not doing your own dang dishes, because I had to do them. But you're right. You got the pop culture stuff down. You're basically a jukebox with all these sounds and songs that you can just spit out of nowhere.
Right. Some would say whatever genre, even musical theater. I've got you covered. So, to talk about the end of the Syracuse ice hockey season, we're bringing in my favorite musical, Hamilton.
Well, you're a theater kid, man. Don't leave out that detail. You were a singer.
Well, I have to be a storyteller here as well. And the story for the Syracuse ice hockey team, I'm not singing. I'm sorry. That would be too much. But the Syracuse ice hockey team this season, tough go of it for Brittany Smith's crew. And it ended over the weekend against Mercyhurst in a home series on senior weekend. So I'm going to use Hamilton as inspiration to tell you how Friday's bout went, and maybe I'll use it as well for Saturdays. Let's get this thing underway. I'm not singing. I'm sorry. So head coach Brittany Smith would have told you Friday that my shot of making the CHA tournament this year is 0%. SU was already eliminated from the 6-team tournament. And the second-year skipper would have been lying if she said, "You'll be back," to her veterans, who were celebrated on senior weekend. So we're going to shift over to Saturday, because that was a 3-2 loss. It was close, and not so close on Saturday. We know Mercyhurst ended Syracuse's season last year with revenge on their mind. The Orange wanted to blow us all away to end this regular season, but a 2-0 lead was swept away by a hurricane. You know, I understand it. You're sick of my Hamilton references. But I do have one good thing to tell you out of all of this. The right-hand woman of Syracuse ice hockey could be back for another season. Allie Kelly, it was her senior day, but she didn't dress. She didn't start for only her second time this year. And although it's not official, that might indicate that the St. Anselm transfer, who set the Orange's single-season record in saves, could be back. So yes, the Orange finished 7-24-3 on the year, but there are some positives. And to talk about this season as a whole, Jack, who do we have over there at the wall?
We brought in a close friend of ours, Gino Antimarino, looking good in his brown suit today.
I tried to dress like you today.
Oh, thank you, Gino. We appreciate it. We got to talk, like Ian said, about this women's ice hockey team. You know, wasn't exactly the ideal season. And this is a program that doesn't necessarily have a bad past. They've had some success, but this year only 7 wins. Does that record really tell the story?
Now, Jack, 7 wins, obviously, you can't sugarcoat it, right? 7 wins is not the standard for Syracuse. But, however, looking at the standings now, finally, the Orange were 6 points out from a final spot in the CHA tournament. But the Orange needed, if they got a few bounces going their way, there was no reason that Syracuse couldn't be in that CHA tournament at the end of the year. So yes, 7 wins, not the best, but however, if they got a few wins going their way, they certainly could make it at the end for that tournament. And also, 8 games this year, 8 losses, where it was just decided by 1 goal. Syracuse, if they got those bounces, they would have been in there for sure.
That sounds like a little bit of a sugarcoating, but I know what you mean. You know, some 1-goal games obviously could have gone either way, and you were there for every single one of them. Now, going forward, you know, where do you think they go from here, moving on to next season? Because obviously this year's not the standard.
Right, so that's going to be for head coach Brittany Smith. That's going to be her decision, right? This is her second year with the program, so there's players there that she didn't recruit, she didn't bring in, and she's trying to figure out what she wants to do with the program, where she wants to take it. And so the class of 2024, there's been 12 players for Syracuse, some graduating, some coming back. Coach Brittany Smith has got to sit down and figure out, okay, am I going to bring in players, bring in recruits that I want to bring up, or am I going to try and bring in some grad student transfers like she did with Rachel Teslak and Alexandria Weiss? It's going to be up to her to see where she wants to take the program.
Now, obviously not a great season, only 7 wins, but we had plenty of highlights here on the bench throughout the way. We had some performers of the week, but most of all, who was the MVP of this year?
Well, as Ian mentioned earlier, it's got to be the goaltender, Allie Kelly. She has been lights out, night in and night out. Ian mentioned it. Over 1,100 saves this season. That's a program record. She had 65 saves against a ranked St. Lawrence last month, also a program record. She just continues to be an anchor back there between the pipes, averages 35 saves a game. I mean, that just goes to show, Jack, how much she's tested on a nightly basis, and she continues to stay strong in the crease.
Well, that's Gino Antimarino. Gino, we appreciate you so much for coming on, all your hard work throughout the season as well. Now, if you didn't get a chance to go to Tennessee Ice Pavilion this season, you got next year, but you still got all of this year to head up to Drumlins for some tennis. Ian Nicholas, he's got more on the tennis.
I like what you did there, Jack, keeping it on Syracuse's South Campus. By the way, Gino, smart man. He knows where his bread is buttered, mentioning me a couple times. I know puck, and I also know what it's like over there at Drumlins, especially for the Syracuse tennis team's ACC opener against a familiar foe, Boston College. They've played 40 matches over the years against the Eagles, and as of late, Eunice Lamam's team has dominated. They've won 5 straight against the Eagles. Let's see if Friday's match played out in similar fashion for a Syracuse team that had already won 4 of their first 5 to start the year. Kind of an inverse of what's gone on so far for this Syracuse team this season. They lost the doubles matches 2-3, and that was a struggle. But the singles, absolutely dominant. 5 of 6 that they won. And that was even with Miyuka Komodo losing hers. Syracuse, thanks to the singles domination, Jack, wins 5-2, 1-0 in the ACC.
Well, Ian, the Orange continued to cook at home. They took on UMass after the win over BC. They secured another victory. This was a great win at Drumlin's. Enos Font, Paulina Kozireva, they won the doubles point for SU, a pair of experienced players that held it down at Drumlin's. Now, they were tied 6-6 and went down to a tiebreaker to decide the match. They won that one. But Kozireva also won her singles point as well. Powered through this super long rally. Don't get nauseous. Focus. She's going to win it eventually. There it is. There it is. Come on, stick with me. There it is. She powered through. They won it for nothing.
In the 2008 Disney Channel original movie, Minutemen, 3 high school boys invent a time machine to save themselves the embarrassments of everyday life. Right now, UMass could use a machine of their own, as the Minute Women fell to the Orange 4-0. While it seemed to be a lopsided affair, it wasn't always the case. After splitting number 2 and 3 doubles, it came down to Paulina Kozireva and Enos Font to secure the point for SU. The duo came away with a 7-6 tiebreaker win that had everyone here at Drumlin's holding their breath and on the edge of their seats.
I think you never know when things are that close. You never know which way it was going to go. But I think the message to our team is always, doubles is 1 point. You win the doubles, that's great. You can carry that momentum. You lose the doubles, you have to have a short memory and move on and kind of own your court. And I think they did a tremendous job with that yesterday, losing the doubles point and coming back and finishing the singles. And today, playing a very close doubles point, and after that just starting the right way in their singles.
Kozireva and Font both closed out the day winning their respective singles matches. Now looking ahead, Syracuse gets 4 days off before returning to Drumlin's for a Friday 3 o'clock matchup against Clemson. Last time out, the Tigers beat the Orange 6-1 down in South Carolina. Reporting from Drumlin's, I'm Josh Richardson, Citrus TV.
Thank you, Josh. Now, we're going to do the South Campus tour here. Started with Tennessee, then we went to Drumlin's, and we should be going to Skytop to talk some softball. But, as you can see right next to me, no Skytop Stadium for Syracuse softball early on in their year. They're down in Louisiana playing in the Lion Classic. They started their year in the Kickin' Chicken tournament. I mean, that's a 10 out of 10 name. I mean, who's sponsoring that? I got to be in on that. So far, Syracuse's pitching has been the one thing that really stands out. It's been up and down. Madison Knight, who was one of the best freshmen in all of the ACC a year ago, over a 5 ERA for her. But again, last season it didn't take until March for Knight to really pick it up. Overall, strong start to the season for Syracuse, mostly non-conference action. Syracuse has began the year 6-3, obviously with their biggest win of the bunch being a Power 5 victory in the top right corner of your screen as the Orange hang 11 runs on the Terps. Hey, who said Syracuse couldn't beat Maryland in a head-to-head? Softball proving everybody wrong this week. When we come back, we're talking softball, we're talking lacrosse, we're talking everything under the sun. Luke Rowe is amped up. He might be a performer or have a play of the week. You'll have to find out who owns all those accolades when we come back on The Bench.
Looking for these? You drive Buzzed. It could be one very expensive ride.
First, you gotta make bail. Then pay me to get your car back.
Your insurance premiums will go through the roof.
And my legal fees just keep adding up. All told, it could end up costing you $10,000.
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is driving.
Ian, where are you going? You running away from me?
I had to get on my box, Jack.
Okay, that's fair. That's all right. I'm not going to make any comment about your height. I'm going to be nice to you. I'm going to be nice.
You're not being nice.
No,
You've already exposed
I said I'm
me.
not going to make. You said you had a box.
Look what you've done to me. You've shattered my confidence.
You're making it up anyway. Anyway, you're lying. Whatever. Ian, we got to talk performers of the week. That's what's most important to the people of this great nation and watchers of On the Bench. So let's get right to it. We're starting with number 5. We got J.J. Starling. He's on a tear right now. 19 points per game in his last 7, but over the last week, he dropped 23 in the big win over UNC. Shot 3 of 6 from deep, and last time out in the loss to Georgia Tech, he was the only bright spot. 18 points, 4 rebounds, also knocked down a pair of threes, had that nice and one finish. He was just noticeably the only bright spot in a brutal game.
He's been the only bright spot, in my opinion, for most of his Syracuse men's basketball season. He's the only player that's consistently gotten better as the year's gone on. I got to see more of this Baldwinsville kid next year because he could be one of the top guards in the ACC with that shooting stroke under him now. Another performer of the week, unfortunately didn't do a whole lot in winning efforts. She did help Syracuse women's lacrosse beat Army, but Natalie Smith and crew fell to Maryland, as we told you earlier in the show. But to no fault of Natalie Smith, who, to be perfectly honest, has kind of come out of nowhere. She was an ancillary piece to this offense a season ago as a junior, scored just under 30 points. But what she has done this season as a Dodger and as a finisher of the ball, she's one of the better athletes on this team. And you see it there. She has a rocket of a shot. It would not surprise me whatsoever if she finished as one of the top 3 scorers for the women's lacrosse team this season.
Nat Smith, number 4. Let's move on to number 3, Paulina Kozyreva. She came ready to play against Boston College and again versus UMass. She won both her singles and doubles matches in back-to-back days. In the 5th year out of Belgorod, Russia is putting this team on her back en route to a 6-1 start to the season. By the way, Belgorod, Russia is called the city of the first fireworks. Well, she's bringing the fireworks to Syracuse tennis.
That is such an Ian Nicholas nugget. You make fun of me for those.
Too much
That's
time
crazy.
spent with you.
We're going to go overseas again. Syracuse women's basketball. I was going to say women's lacrosse because there's too many ranked teams with the women's teams here on campus. Georgia Woolley is back with a capital B. 50 points in the last 2 games. I told you during the UVA highlights, she's battled a lot of adversity this season. This is the player Syracuse had down the stretch last year, and this is the 2-woman punch in the backcourt of Deasia Fair and Georgia Woolley at its finest.
Well, Ian, I know you wanted to get to the lacrosse field, and I'll do just that. Number 1 performer of the week, we got Luke Roa. I know this one wasn't a loss. We've talked about that on the women's side. The men fell in overtime to Maryland too, but Luke Roa, another bright spot in a loss. 4 goals for the sophomore. And not the most efficient shooter last season. He's really picked that up. 4 of 9 is very solid. Shooting in the mid-30s on the season. He's just so shifty. You see him with the jukes. He can shoot low to high right there, snipe in the top corner. He can do so without any angles. Luke Roa, 4 goals, big performer of the week.
People forget that was a top class in the country a year ago recruiting-wise, and Luke Roa has slipped through the cracks. Not anymore after that performance against Maryland. Maybe he'll have a top play. We'll see. We got to get into them, though. Our top 5 plays from the week, and it's not going to start on the turf, it's going to start on the ice. I know we've kind of been down on this women's ice hockey team, but this was a great connection. Alexandria Weiss with the assist against her former team Mercyhurst, who she won the CHA championship with all the way back in the day. She finds Darcy Johal. These two, their final 2 games with Syracuse, the Orange lost this one 3-2 on Friday.
Well, Ian, tough loss for ice hockey. We got to get right into our next top play. Number 4. Look at this one. We got Sammy English right through all the defenders, spinning, freeing up some space with a little twister right to left side. Look at the fake right there. The juke, he just keeps on going. That's number 4, Sammy English.
How about number 3? By the way, Sam English, there's a reason he's starting over Jake Stevens. I know Stevens is great in the faceoff X, but man, that guy has dodges for days. And Deasia Fair has 3-pointers for days. Shout out Isabel Varejao. Welcome back to the Orange. Her 3rd or 4th game back off an injury. Deasia Fair is great with a lot of room, great with a little room, and if you foul her, she'll make you pay too. 33 points for Fair, a dominant 4th quarter for Deasia as the Orange win 81-75 on the road against UVA.
We're sticking on the court for number 2 in Syracuse men's basketball against Georgia Tech. This one, sadly, also a loss, but this big play, yeah, a big win for the 2 involved. Judah Mintz, no look, bounce pass to Malik Brown, 2-handed flush. What a nice finish. They got that sophomore connection right there. Didn't even have to look at him, and Malik Brown knows just what to do to finish.
Who knows what the future of Judah Mintz is with the Orange, but Malik Brown, steady as usual. I brought up the slow and steady thing earlier. I had to bring it back full circle. This was not slow and steady at all. Daniel Maltz, this is a goal. 99 times out of 100, but Will Mark goes pipe to pipe. His body's one place, his stick is the other. 9 saves on the game for Mark, and that was easily his most impressive on the game.
I love that. A diving save right there. Didn't even know where the ball was going to end up. He's got to be not only one of the best athletes just on the team, but on campus. You can't doubt a goalie like that.
People forget he has the most saves in all of Division I right now. He's been around the block.
And how about the 2 goalies that we get treated to watch every week? Delaney Schweitzer and Will Mark, not bad.
Not
2 Tour-a-Ton watch listers right there.
Delaney Schweitzer, the National Goalie of the Year a season ago, but Syracuse women's lacrosse just 1 and 2 to start the year. We're going to talk a lot of lacrosse. I know that makes you happy. I'm on the bench this year, but that's all the sports we're talking tonight. For Jack Gordon, Ian Nicholas, and the rest of our crew, these are our images of the week.